Senator from Kansas.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent the quorum call be lifted.
Without objection.
Mr. President, thank you very much. I'm here on the Senate floor this afternoon to discuss really the Farm Bill, but more importantly, the current state of the farm economy in the place I call home, Kansas. Every 5 years, we have an opportunity to develop farm policy, and this is my, I would guess, fourth time of being involved in Farm Bill discussions and negotiations and the passage of a Farm Bill. Each Farm Bill is developed at a time in which agriculture faces unique challenges and rural America is in a different circumstance. But the Farm Bill is important to us. It's important to Kansans. It's important to Kansans whether they're a farmer or not. This is a way that we provide certainty, security, a future for the places that many of us call home. And the challenges that farmers and ranchers face today are significant. They're tremendous. The ag economy is struggling. Commodity prices are low. Over the course of the 2014 Farm Bill, the one that we are soon to replace, farm revenues fell by over 50%, and it continues to be those low commodity prices today. In addition to low commodity prices, weather has not been our friend in Kansas and many places across the country, especially in the Midwest, with continuing drought. And so you end up with the worst of both circumstances, low commodity prices and not much production. So it is important that we are able to pass a Farm Bill. It's important that we provide certainty. It's important that we provide a safety net to those who struggle every day to feed, clothe, and provide energy to us and the rest of the world. A primary motivation for which I asked Kansans to give me the opportunity to represent them here in the United States Senate, to represent them in Congress, was a belief that rural America is a place worthy of keeping around for a while longer. I hope a long while longer. But when agricultural interests struggle, when farmers and ranchers are in difficult circumstances, every community across Kansas struggles, and in fact, the United States of America faces tremendous challenges. Again, you don't have to be a farmer or rancher in our state, but your community's future depends upon whether or not farmers and ranchers are successful. And the extended downturn in the farm economy has forced more and more ag producers to look for off-the-farm income. Many farmers, I would say most farmers in Kansas, no longer earn a living solely by farming. Husband, wife, or both have to find off-the-farm income to keep the farm intact. The Wall Street Journal indicates that 82% of income for U.S. farm households is expected to come from jobs off the farm this year. I highlight that because it is that struggle that farmers face every year, all the time, every day, to keep the farm intact. I visit with farmers and ranchers on a regular basis, and it's apparent the stress that they are encountering. It's taking its toll. Many farm families are now stretched to the limit of their financial viability. This week, the Senate has the opportunity to consider and to vote for legislation that will help address the challenges in rural America. The Senate Farm Bill provides a stable safety net for our farmers and ranchers, protects key risk management tools, crop insurance in particular, and ensures that continued access to credit for producers, particularly for our young farmers, is so important. You cannot borrow money from a bank, from a financial institution, in the absence of the safety net that the Farm Bill provides. You cannot borrow money from a financial institution for a line of credit for your farm, to pay for the seed, to buy the fuel, in the absence of crop insurance that protects you in the loss or reduction in production on your farm. I appreciate the strong focus in this Farm Bill also on rural development and on conservation programs. The Farm Bill is mostly about SNAP, nutrition programs, but the titles of the Farm Bill that are also important to the country are is Title I, which is the farm programs, but you add to that conservation programs, add to that rural development programs, and this is one of the most significant opportunities we have to stand strong side by side with those who live in rural America. One of the primary ways that I judge whether or not farm policy or a farm bill is of value is the circumstances in which we allow for young farmers, young men and women who grew up on a farm, young people who want to be a farmer. Do they have the opportunity to return to their home community, to their family's farm, and become farmers? Is that increasing or decreasing? And again, I look at a farm bill, whether or not it's successful, are we increasing the number of young men and women across Kansas and the United States who return to take over family farming and ranching operations. The McCurry brothers' Angus Farm in Sedgwick, Kansas is an example of this generational operation that we ought to make certain continues into the future. I just saw and learned yesterday that this year the McCurry brothers' farm is notably celebrating their 90th anniversary. We need more aspects of American life like the McCurry brothers and other farmers and ranching operations where sons and daughters work alongside moms and dads and grandparents, grandmothers and grandfathers. In agriculture, land, equipment, and livestock are passed down from generation to generation. I care about farmers and ranchers because they are the economic future of most communities in my state. But I also care about farmers and ranchers because it is a way of life that allows us to pass on values, morals, integrities, traditions from one generation to the next. That opportunity to work side by side with mom and dad, the opportunity to work side by side with grandparents is a vanishing thing in our country. Agriculture is a place in which it still occurs, and it's been important in the way our country has developed, that relationship, that passage of, again, integrity, character, love of life, an understanding of what's truly valuable in life. Knowing about farming and ranching and working with your grandparents, working with your parents, changes the way you see the world. And in my view, this country needs more of that, not less. This farm bill is especially important now because of the uncertainty that exists related to trade. With low commodity prices and uncertain now export markets, providing risk management tools for a strong safety net through a farm bill is even more important than ever. So low commodity prices, poor weather, and now the uncertainty of where the United States will end up in regard to trade around the globe. We should be clear that no farm program safety net can replace lost exports and lost markets in agriculture. That's why it's critical that we successfully conclude NAFTA renegotiations and avoid a multi-front trade war that will have a direct economic consequence for agriculture and rural Kansas. In meetings across Kansas, sometimes I hear, Jerry, let's just forget the rest of the world. Let's just take care of ourselves. But if a farmer thinks that or says that, or if we think that's possible, I would say to those people, what 48% of wheat acres in Kansas do you not want to plant and do you not want to harvest? Because we produce more in the United States in agriculture than we can consume, and we earn a living by selling that surplus to places around the globe. It is income to farmers and ranchers. It is the economic future of my state. The trade uncertainty has already impacted markets as countries that typically buy American-grown commodities have started to look to other suppliers, including to our competitors, especially Argentina and Brazil. Given the trade and market uncertainty, it is critical that we do our job and pass a farm bill this week as we work towards sending a finished product to the President to sign by the end of September when the current farm bill, the current legislation, expires. In that economic development aspect of a farm bill, in that rural development aspect of a farm bill, I want to mention a key provision of the Senate Farm Bill. I want to indicate some areas in which we can make some improvements, and I'd like to just do this in a highlight way in a brief manner. I want to talk about the importance of broadband to rural states like mine. I was excited to see in the FY 2018 Omnibus Bill, it included a new pilot program, a loan and grant program within USDA to bolster broadband deployment across our states and bridge the digital divide between urban and rural. To ensure effective use of those federal resources, I applaud the Senate Farm Bill for including critical guardrails, what I call guardrails, to prevent duplication and overbuilding of broadband infrastructure for new and current USDA programs. We want to make sure those dollars are spent where there is no broadband services or where there is very little, where access to broadband, again, in agriculture is so important. It matters in our communities, in our schools, our libraries, in our hospitals, in our businesses. But to farmers in today's world, technology is the key, and broadband access determines whether or not your farm equipment can provide you with the latest technology and information to more efficiently and effectively, and there hopefully more profitably, farm. Access to quality, high-speed broadband will remain a necessary tool for rural communities to participate in an increasingly globalized economy. I also want to mention that something called ECP. I note my appreciation to Chairman Roberts that this bill includes an amendment that I offered by me and Republican and Democrat members of the Senate to increase the level of support that ranchers would receive under Emergency Conservation Program, ECP. In 2016 and 17, I talked about how weather wasn't our friend, but that drought then caused fires to consume thousands of acres of grassland in our state, causing great damage to cattle producers. 10,000 miles of fence was destroyed in Clark County, Kansas alone. The ECP provided assistance to producers, but in many cases fell well short of providing the level of assistance needed to replace the miles of fence that ranchers lost in the fire. It wasn't just fence that our ranchers lost, it was their entire herds in many instances. We also learned of areas of ECP that ought to be improved as a result of those fires, and this legislation incorporates those provisions, and I'm appreciative of that that's the case. Farmers and ranchers have been frustrated by the long delays that they have encountered in receiving reimbursement for building those fences under ECP, and many instances ranchers didn't have the money to pay for the fencing in the beginning. So this is a significant improvement, and I'm grateful that it's here. When a ranching family has lost everything in a fire, including cattle, fence, rangeland, and their homes, taking over a year to provide emergency assistance is unacceptable. Further, because they've lost everything, many of the ranchers do not have any collateral necessary to get a loan to cover those significant costs to rebuilding fencing. Mr. President, I also want to compliment the senator from South Dakota in legislation an amendment that he has offered regarding livestock hauling. We have a significant problem in our ranching world where, in many communities, truckers, those who haul cattle from market to market, from feed yard to market to processing plant, that's an important way to earn a living. And the senator from South Dakota, Senator Thune, has offered an additional 150-mile radius exemption for agriculture at the end of that drive. Cattle are transported across the nation to Kansas each year, and we need to make sure that the hours of service rules for those haulers allows that to occur safely and humanely, but yet allows the transportation to continue to occur. I'm a co-sponsor of legislation to address this issue, and I hope that amendment is included in the Farm Bill. Again, Mr. President, I appreciate the chance to have a conversation with my colleagues this evening to highlight the importance of this legislation. This is about the future of America. It's about the future of rural America. I always look forward to working on a farm bill that allows us the opportunity to enact and improve on policies that help farmers and ranchers and the rural communities they live in and support. This farm bill will provide stable farm policies during a time of high uncertainty in agriculture. I thank Senator Roberts, the chairman of the Agriculture Committee, my colleague from Kansas. I thank the senator from Michigan, Senator Stabenow, the ranking Democrat on the committee, for working together. And I hope at the end of the day, hope at the end of this week, we will see the benefits of their work. I look forward to supporting this bill and continuing to work to improve the final version as it continues its march through conference with the House. Mr. President, I yield the floor after noting the absence of a quorum.